Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. We hope you enjoyed our last episode with filmmaker and novelist Mikel Wisler, because that was just the beginning. In this episode, we talk about his recently released time thriller Stop. Mikel and I are a couple of big science nerds, and we dive into the time travel that is used here and how it all came to be. Mikel talks about the creation of his main character Jake Howell and the paradox he finds himself stuck in. We also share Mikel's approach to the big questions and what has come from this exploration. Citywide Blackout starts right now.
Welcome to Citywide Blackout, the place where writers, musicians, and creators from cities all over the world come to hang out, dive into their works, peel back the curtain on their creative process, and provide knowledgeable, actionable insight that you can apply to your own creative masterpieces. With decades of journalism, media, and entertainment industry experience, your hosts Max Bowen and Curtis Hughes provide fun, informative, and sometimes outrageously bizarre interviews that will keep you enlightened and entertained with a few F-bombs thrown in for emphasis. So put up your feet, grab a beverage, and let's go.
We've talked about the movie. Now it's time to segue to books because you also have a new book coming out. This one's called Stop. Walk us through what this one is all about.
It's just recently released. I got a copy here of Stop. So this is actually started off as a short film I made in 2011.
That was many years ago.
So many years ago at this point. 25 years ago. Something like, 15, something like that. One of those. Math. It's great. I do not math well. Which is ironic because I have to deal with time travel and physics and all that.
That's a lot of math.
This book. That's a lot of math. But that's where I pause and do my work and get a calculator. But yeah, Stop. It started as a short film, and it was just this fun little idea, but then eventually expanded into this whole other story. The story of Stop is a man sees himself on this 20-year-old reel of film that his dad recorded the day he went missing. So his dad's been missing for 20 years. Now his son watches this film and sees himself as the adult he is right now attack his father. And then he holds up a sign that says stop.
Whoa.
So it basically is this question of it's the past for his dad, but it's the future for him. It's something he hasn't done yet. Can he stop it from happening? And so it delves into how his dad was researching these little spots in Maine where jumps through time become possible. And his partners, his scientific partners, are about to publish a paper where they're going to start inviting more of the scientific community in to study these places now that they have gathered enough data. But also this now means that Jake, our main character, is trying to figure out, can I stop whatever it is that's happening? Why would I even attack my own dad? What in the world is this all about? So it blends found footage horror with hard sci-fi time travel. There's a lot of nerding out about what are the actual physics of time travel? How could it work? But also a lot of strange, creepy things on 16 millimeter film reels that keep sort of cropping up. And so it's a pretty fast-paced thriller. A lot of fun. I think one of my favorite reviews that I got on Amazon, somebody said it was reminiscent of Blake Crouch. And I was like, oh, that is a huge honor. Thank you. Also very much what I was going for.
Perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Also, creepy things on film. Great. Awesome. Yes. Love that. Definitely what I want to see. This is so cool. What is your approach, though, to time travel, Mikel? Because there's so many ways you see it done in books, movies, comics, what have you.
Yeah. So this was a very interesting approach because, one of the funny conundrums of time travel is that because time space, right, is a thing, actually. It's not just time or space. And so the idea that you jump back in time would also mean actually the whole planet has moved and the galaxy is expanded and all this stuff. And
sure.
You're just oop, and you're in the middle of space and then you
dead. The end.
Dead. Yeah. So it's an interesting conundrum, right? But that was where I was like, oh, well, what if we tie it to physical spots?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this something happening there. And that's I think also the territory where it's like you do have to embrace a little bit of mystery. So I get away a little bit with, well, we're still trying to understand this. So there's some questions, a lot of questions we have. But I approached it also from this perspective of the challenge I set out for myself, being a philosophy major and having gone through symbolic logic and all of that, was, can I write a time travel story that also does not contradict the law of non-contradiction, which is the idea that two things cannot both be and not be basically at the same time. So in other words, can I write a paradox-free time travel story, which I think is the one of the hardest things to do in sci-fi. I think I got there, but it is challenging, and I think I invite other fellow time travel nerds to read it and like let me know. Like I'm totally open to being wrong about that. But yeah, my approach was like I want it to make sense. I want it to be grounded, and I want it to have some very clear rules. So part of it too is that these jumps through time that Jake is experiencing, you don't just get to jump back to a point and then you're like, da-da-da, I'm just going to stay here. They're very confined. And also one of the other things that I did the hard rule for this story was you only get to do one of those jumps once to a particular moment. So there's no like, oh, we're going to redo and redo. And then you end up in this like infinite loop, right? So I set up some very clear rules, which I think in any science fiction, any speculative story, any fantasy story, right, is super important. Like you're going to have your rules, whether it's a magic system or time travel, and then you need to like be very strict about it because that's a contract I'm making with the reader. That like I'm going to take you on this journey, but like it's going to make sense, at least internally to itself. You can step back and be like, yeah, it'll never happen in the real world. Fine, totally. There'll never be a ring of power in the real world either. However, within this story, does it work? So that was a big approach of mine. And so I tried to keep that pretty grounded. And I kept it focused really on essentially a singular timeline. In this one, I don't go into multiverse necessarily. I have written some other stuff that's multiverse, but not this.
Now, the way that you did this, was this like your first attempt, or did you go through different ideas before you said, okay, this one actually makes like the most sense. We're going to go with this version of time travel?
It was kind of a funny sort of approach. Because what happened was I had the short film, and the short film is really just like, it's 7-8 minutes long. And it's really just like kind of what you would say is the inciting incident of a story. Just goes up to a kind of the moment of seeing something crazy on a film reel. It's not actually the guy attacking his dad. It's actually a guy attacking himself in the short film. But what happened was I made it for fun, put it out on YouTube. It did pretty well. And then I kind of forgot about it. And then a while later, somebody had contacted me, an indie film producer out of LA had contacted me and was like, would you be interested in making this into a feature? And I was like, how?
It's like, I mean, sure, I would love to, but how?
Yeah. I had never really expanded beyond that particular thing. So kind of what happened though was like I was trying to come up with an idea, and that's where I came up with this like, what if it's this guy and he sees himself attack his dad? And so I had that whole like basically the first act, right, where he's like discovers this film and it's still in the evidence bag that the police had put it in when they found it and all that. And then he sees it. What is he going to do? And I told a good friend of mine, Jed Burdick, I was like, I got nothing else. and the next day he came back with this outline that was like, well, this is kind of like what could happen. And I was like, oh, that is good. There's some tweaks we need to do, but that is a really solid outline. So we ended up writing the feature script together. And so the approach to time travel in a lot of ways, to answer your original question in a long roundabout way, was kind of dictated by, okay, here's the plot. and what works, what makes sense with that. And there were things that, of course, being the hard sci-fi nerd that I am, that I was like, well, this plot point we need to shift or change a little bit, because like that's not how like the time travel would work. For the most part, it fit. And what I just, so it was a process of discovering, like, oh, if this were to play out, how would that be the case? So in a sense, almost doing the detective work and discovering sort of these like plausible ideas. And then of course I did research, read actual books on, the physics of time travel, how our brains interact with time and how we perceive time, all that kind of stuff. And the more I learned, the more I was like, there's like some real plausibility to some of this, aside from the, like, as far as I know, there are no places in Maine that like time travel jumps are possible that I know
of.
Yes. And that's actually one of the fun things that I did too, was like, I very quickly in the book, like mentioned that, like have one of the characters talk about how these places have historically been sort of relegated or as they're haunted, because weird things happen. Sometimes some people claim to see people they know are dead in these places, so they think they're seeing ghosts. But meanwhile, this group of scientists, these 3 scientists, end up there studying that, going, what if something else is happening in these creepy places, and it's something other than ghosts? That's when they kind of stumble. Oh, actually, that's kind of what they call nexus points. Sort of places where the time-space continuum seems a little malleable.
I gotta say, that is really clever. I like that. I like that, especially how you sort of shift them from like, well, they're time spots, but they become almost like legendarily haunted spots.
Yeah.
So it's almost like it's weird, because like we're trying to apply this like mystical quality to a scientific thing.
Yeah. Which I think is just human.
Yeah.
Right? I think there's many things that we now go, oh, epilepsy, not demonic possession. It's just kind of the story of human development in so many ways.
Yeah, but in this way, it's almost reversed, because now we're taking the science thing and making it the magical thing. I like that. I like that. Yeah. How about the character of Jake? How did you create him, and how did you kind of grow him from this, like you said, a 7-minute short film into this full-fledged novel?
Right. Yeah. For him as a character, that was an interesting bit of development, because even just in the first few drafts of the feature, he was not as fleshed out as I would really like, because I'm really a character guy. And so it's like, oh yeah, there's this stuff that's happening to him, and he's like making these choices, but who is he really? What is he really about? And it wasn't, I feel like it wasn't until I got to writing the novel when I decided, because the making the feature thing never went anywhere, as is so often the case with these things. But eventually I was like, oh, this would be a cool novel. So I got around to writing it. And what I discovered in the process of writing the novel and getting to inhabit more of Jake was the discovery of this is really a story about his journey through grief. Both he's there packing up his late mother's house, who he had a bit of a, I guess, strained relationship with ever since 20 years ago. His father disappeared, right? So there's these like 2 layers of grief that are being dealt with there. And he is a character who is like grappling with a lot. So I put a lot of myself into the character. Actually, one of the things that I ended up sort of exploring through Jake was my own religious deconstruction and deconversion, and sort of move away from that space. And so the book actually comments a little bit lightly on some real events that took place at the evangelical college that I graduated from. And some of my sort of trying to grapple also with that. How do I feel about all of that in what I ultimately have come to see as a universe that doesn't match what I was told in that context? So Jake has a lot of that going on as well. He's a just recently been ousted from his job as a philosophy professor at a small evangelical college because of his very vocal support of the theory of evolution. And all of that may sound very ludicrous, but actually happened to a former professor of mine. So that's sort of like his initial place where he's at, out of a job, uh, just buried his mom, and now he has to figure out what to do with this space. And he's married, he's a father, but he's also a bit rudderless. I think that was also my experience of going through sort of that process of deconstructing, deconverting, is feeling a little lost because you lose a lot of identity in that process, and you grieve a lot. You grieve a lot of the things that were good about the things that you had, and all of that's wrapped in this like thriller. But at the end, it really is Jake's journey of wrestling with doubt and grief and his place in a universe that feels pretty chaotic at times.
Mm-hmm. As someone who, as you said, went to an evangelical college and was a philosophy major,
yeah,
wrapping your head around notions like time travel, AI, this must have been quite the experience for you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the funny thing is, I think wrapping my head around some of these bigger ideas like AI, like what we're dealing with, and even the push towards AGI or time travel, it's really those are almost easier to wrap my head around than I think some of the deeper identity questions, when it's like you're so convinced that, oh, there's a loving God who's also going to condemn everyone to hell that doesn't believe these specific things. And and there's the inherent contradictions with that. And I think that's what ended up happening for me. And I think why I love science fiction so much and love exploring it so much is because I wanted to confront the contradictions. I was not comfortable or willing to overlook them or just like sit in the cognitive dissonance and be like, it's fine. I actually wanted to wrestle with them. With that, I keep asking why, and the more I asked why, the more sort of layers got peeled away to where I was like, well, okay, I don't think I can sort of like fit within this particular paradigm anymore because I don't see things enough through. There's not enough overlap in how I see the world in that particular paradigm.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask also about cover art, because look at the cover art for this. This is pretty amazing stuff. Yeah, I love it.
Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you.
How'd this one come to be?
I'm currently, well, so far, I don't have any huge income as a author, and I'm not signed to a huge, publishing house. I work with D&M Publishing, is actually run by a friend of mine, and it's a small startup, and it's been a great partnership. But it does mean, being a startup, that we don't necessarily have budget for like awesome cover design artists. So this is me. I designed it.
Wow.
It's actually my handwriting.
There you go.
I just used my Apple Pencil on my iPad to scratch that out. But yeah, I wanted to create that feel of the 16 millimeter film strip on the cover, the chalk slate, because that's like a lot of what his dad is using, this chalk slate, to just hold up. Here's the location, the date, the time, holds it up at the beginning of each reel. And that's what Jake ends up using to write stop on it when we see that in the film reel. So I wanted to just kind of create something that felt like something you would see on that film reel. So it's the slate, the chalk slate on the ground with a bloody handprint on it, and the word stop scrawled on the chalk slate, but also kind of repeating, right? And with a bit of sense of motion, like it almost like the film is being actively pulled through the projector. So those are all the reference points, like that moment when he's like threaded it through the projector and is actually playing it. and then just, yeah, trying to give it a bit of that kinetic, dark, mysterious feel.
Okay, well, Michael, we are coming down to the end of the art portion of this discussion.
Yeah.
We'll be segueing into the business portion just a little bit.
Woo-hoo.
But before we sort of take this break here, what's next for you?
Yeah, what's next? Well, we are pitching actively the feature film Code Demon, and actually, we're also very actively pursuing the possibility of making Stop as a first feature as well. So Diana and I have been exploring those two things. We just came back. It'd be a great segue for talking about business and all that. We just came back from the Frontiers Market that happens in conjunction with the Fantasia Film Festival up in Montreal. So we were there going to roundtables, meeting with people, pitching the project, getting to do some networking and learning more about the business, where the industry is at right now. So that's what the biggest thing that's next. But also, I have a co-writer and a different co-writer who I'm working on a novel with, Christina Orly. It's based on a short story of hers that's fantastic. And so the novel's called Ghosts of Europa. It has been picked up by Gungner Books. So we are still, I cranked through a very fast first draft, and I've handed it over to Chris for her to go to work on it as well. And so we got to hand that off at some point here, but Gungner Books will be publishing that hopefully next year. And that'll be it's sort of a space murder mystery detective novel horror thing, and a lot of genres in there. It's pretty fun. So there's that, and I continue to just constantly write. So we'll have a paperback edition also of my second novel coming out soon, my cyberpunk novel, Sleepwalker. So, yeah.
Excellent. Well, folks, get your copy of Stop. Where do you get it? Real simple. You go to mikelwisler.com, MikelWisler. Everything is there. And of course, leave reviews. We want to know what you thought, good, bad, or otherwise. Now, hope you guys have enjoyed this discussion. We're going to take a little breather, and when we come back later, we'll be talking all about the business of film and writing. Thanks for listening to this episode, and please subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. It ensures you never miss an episode and helps our ranking, allowing others to discover the podcast more easily.
If you really liked it, please share it with a friend and join our Citywide Blackout Facebook community, along with following us on Instagram at CitywideMax and at Citywide Interviews.
I'm your host, Max Bowen.
And I'm Curtis Hughes.
And we'll see you all next time.